Hello and welcome to the Transformation Project, a podcast and community for women who are looking to transform into the best version of themselves no matter where they are at. A place where you can listen, learn, and laugh along with us as we dive deep into different topics to help you live a happier, healthier, and more fulfilled life. Remember, we are all learning here together, and therefore the content and opinions of the hosts and our guests should not be taken as medical advice. Please consult your healthcare professional for any medical questions.
So my journey to motherhood was not at all as I expected.
I was completely burnt out. I was not coping in any sense of the word.
I always felt like I was failing. I always struggled with realistic expectations.
It's a really easy trap to fall into where everything you do is for somebody else and nothing is for you.
I love adventure. I love the escape of it.
It takes you to places that you would never go if you weren't climbing.
So focused on that one next move and one next breath and one next clip. Just totally captivating and amazing.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Transformation Project. We're super excited today because we are speaking to some ladies that I have been watching for a little while through my brother, who happens to be a climber and a naturopath. You guys may have heard him on here before, Dean. And he introduced me to an incredible lady called Wendy. And watching Wendy, I realized that she is part of a production company called Mojo Stoke Productions with her friend Nell. And they have just an incredible way of doing the work that they do, running the business they run, but doing it with such fun and friendship and passion and building community at the same time that we just had to have them on. They've got some really exciting stuff happening at the moment. And we really just wanted to share everything that they're doing with you guys. So welcome on, Wendy and Nell.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much for having us. What an introduction. That was beautiful.
Yeah.
Feeling all warm and fuzzy.
Stalking, you know?
Oh, I am the queen of the stalk. I'm all up about the stalking. So that's fantastic.
So tell us a little bit about you guys. How did Mojo Stoke start? And tell me, okay, there's a reason behind the Mojo Stoke name. Tell me about that first.
Well,
Wendy, this is you.
This is me. Okay. Well, so Nell and I, we actually met through the ATA community back in 2017.
Which is what?
ATA stands for All the Activities. So it's actually a group of avid adventurers that I started with a few friends. So Nell and I met at one of the weekend camping events called All the Water Activities. And we just had this really fun shared sense of humor and, stoke for life. And we also had a very crass sense of humor. So hence Madam Mojo and Sister Stoke and Mojo Stoke Productions became. But yeah, we did have a couple years of climbing and adventuring together where we really solidified that friendship. And then one day in 2019, I get this call from Nell about a project.
Yeah. So pretty much I'd just gotten off the phone from my friend's sister. She was looking for an adventurous videographer. Apparently I fell under that category. Lisa and her husband, Wade, they own Kinesis Performance Sunscreen, and they had just become national sponsors of the Tommy and Kevin live show. For those of you who don't know, Tommy Caldwell and Kevin Georgeson are two of the world's most accomplished and amazing, well-known climbers. So they star in a film. It's called The Dawn Wall, which it's quite huge now. You can watch it on Netflix if you want, The Dawn Wall. It's absolutely amazing. And they were coming out to Australia to sold-out theatres to present this film and, do a bit of back and forth interviews and that sort of thing. Kinesis needed a commercial that would be running pre-show. So up on the big screen in all these theaters with all these amazing adventure people. And I was like on the phone freaking out completely because I have never done a project like this before. And I knew that I couldn't do it alone. And so I was like, oh my gosh, this is such a big opportunity. And I just called Wendy. I said to Lisa, just give me a little while, give me a few days or give me a day and I'll see what I can do. And got off the phone and called Wendy.
Yeah. So Nell calls me in like this excited sort of panic. And she's like telling me about this project. She's like, I have to do this commercial. It's for Tommy and Kevin Live. And I was just like, oh my God, seriously? You have to do it. Like, this is like a once in a lifetime opportunity. And I was like, I'll come help you. No problems. Let's do it, whatever it is. So we immediately put together this proposal for Kinesis sunscreen and they approved it, which was awesome. But then we had like 4 very short weeks to pull this out of our butts. Like, so we had to organize actors. We had to get, we drove around all over the Gold Coast looking for filming locations. Then we had to pick filming dates that worked with the actors. And we just had to like pray to the weather gods to cooperate. So then, even though we were under like all this pressure and this really tight time frame, everything just felt like it fell into place. And it worked out really well. And we ended up having a lot of fun doing this project together. So we're like, hey, we need to do this for a living. So we started Mojo Stoke Productions.
Fun the fun and everything else falls into place.
Yeah.
So cool. What were you both doing before this?
So I've been pretty well full-time parenting for the last 9 years or so. But on the side, I had started doing a little bit of videography work, mainly just with friends who had smaller businesses. And I'd just been starting to build my skills and build my business on the side. So all self-taught and mainly just created because I enjoy it, turned a hobby into a bit of income. And because it was so flexible as well, because I still really need a flexible work life. So that's what I was doing. And that's how I got connected to the Kinesis guys, because they knew of me through a mutual friend.
Cool.
Yeah. And I was working for this marketing company doing their event planning and videography and kind of helping them do, whatever training materials as well. So I was doing a lot of videography in that role. And I also took videography at Griffith as well before I started in that role. So I did have a background in videography and yeah, hence why Nell called me.
That's so cool. How perfect. It just,
Yeah.
the universe just made it all work out so well.
Yeah.
So how did your partnership work together then?
I think what we worked out working on the Kinesis project together was that we have very similar creative processes and very similar creative visions. And we bounce off each other really well. So like I'd have this idea just almost at the same moment as Wendy was having practically the same idea. Or we'd be looking through soundtracks for the commercial and hit one song and just be like, yes. And we would just both agree. It just flows so well, our creativity. So there's that, which is great. And of course, Wendy's already mentioned that we have this very crass sense of humor and we dubbed each other Madam Mojo. Wendy's Madam Mojo. I am Sister Stoke, and it's all about kind of like this magic mojo stuff and Stoke, which I guess for people who aren't in the adventure world, because I think that's a very much of an adventure term, the Stoke.
I was going to say that's going to be, that's one of those terms.
Yeah, okay. I didn't know whether, because it's so ingrained in
That's
us,
part of
whether
who
other
you
people
are.
knew what they meant. But Stoke is pretty much this feeling of elation and inspiration and motivation that you get from doing amazing things. You just get stoked on it. So that's where all that came from. But the other thing I think that works really well for us is very early on, like I think when we were still doing the Kinesis project, we sat down and we talked about what we wanted from our working life, what we valued. And it was a really important conversation that set the tone for how we operate and the relationship that we have as business partners. And the awesome part of that was that our wants are very much aligned. We both believe it's important to work with people and brands that inspire us, whose mission in some way resonates with our core values. And as for the content we're creating, ideally we want that to be inspiring and impactful. But at the very least, it needs to be positive in some way for the audience. Like that's very important for us.
Yeah. And not only that, we wanted to practice what we preach. So we want to make sure that we have like a lot of fun in the process. And we do have that good work-life balance. Not saying that we don't work hard, because we've had days where we wake up at 3 a.m. for a sunrise shoot, and then we don't end up packing up until after sundown. But we do want to make sure we check in with each other when we have these long days or when we are under pressure with deadlines, to check on each other's mental health. So we're really good at checking in on each other and making sure we're both doing okay, because we both also understand that burnout and stress are really detrimental, and that's completely not what we're about or what our business is about. So whenever we do recognize that we're getting to that point, we kind of take a pause and we reevaluate what we're doing, and we make the necessary changes to find that balance again. And, we both agreed right from the beginning that our friendship would always come before business, because we value that relationship that we have over, whatever business may come. So, but, we do also value all the relationships that we have and connections that we've built, because they're paramount to the success of Mojo Stoke Productions. So we both do build those very meaningful relationships with our clients, our actors, and our communities. And, that's why this partnership between Nell and I works so well.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that you set those boundaries and had those conversations right at the beginning. Love it.
Yeah, it was
I
super
think
important
it's
for
interesting
us.
because Jess and I work together as well. We're in business together as well outside of this podcast. And I think that's something that we find is important too. With or without the business, we are friends first. Ours was a flip, right? Our business brought us together and we became friends. But as that's passed over the years, now 3 years or something, now Jess and I have been together. It's with or without the business, like that friendship comes first. The relationships that we built comes first, for sure. And I think that's so important that you guys are kind of checking in with each other too, because I think so many, like as women, we tend to just put ourselves last, put everything else first. I know now you have kids too, like everything else comes before, and then your kind of emotional health and mental health and all of that kind of gets pushed to the background. So the fact that you guys are not just making that an important part of what you do with each other, but I think that may be some part of your documentary that you have just recently released last year has got to do a little bit about that too, does it not? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. So the documentary is actually based around a community that I have been building for the last 4 years. So it definitely has a bit of a backstory and does link into the relationships in the community and all of this important stuff for putting yourself first. So after I had my first baby, so many things in my life that I had drawn motivation and passion from, they just dropped away. Boston was actually born with a rare genetic syndrome. So there were a lot of factors that pulled my complete attention to parenting, as you can imagine. There's lots of things going on. But I also know that experience is super common. It's not just because we had a child with special needs. Motherhood has that ability to shatter our sense of self, especially when you first comes along. And you need to be very intentional with the things that you give time. So 5 years later, after Boston, 5 years after Boston was born, I returned to climbing. And that for me was this pivotal moment, especially for my mental health that had been rather poor. That's probably an understatement of the century. And that experience of going back and starting climbing again motivated me to create Mum's Gone Climbing. We started in 2018 as an Instagram account, which grew into a global community, and it's evolved since then. And among the things that we now have is an incredible local community of mothers here in Southeast Queensland. So the documentary features 7 mothers from our community. It shares their stories, and it was filmed over 2 years because we had to deal with bushfires and electrical storms and droughts and COVID as well. So it was quite the process. And it explores things like climbing while pregnant, societal pressures, challenges of chasing adventure as a mum, and and the importance of community. So it's those connections again. Probably not surprising the documentary is called Mum's Gone Climbing. So it's all about Mum's Gone Climbing at the moment. Seeing the positive effects climbing and our community has had on individuals in the last 4 years, I really wanted to share those lessons that we have learned with a much broader audience to reach as many women as possible. And that's why we decided to produce a doco. And Wendy was like fully on board with that as well, because it's what Mojo Stoke is all about.
Yeah, we were actually really stoked because we were able to premiere the doco at the Women's Adventure Film Tour, which is a huge deal for us.
Oh, exciting.
Yeah, because and then we even got to host the Brisbane and Gold Coast shows and see all of our friends in local communities watch the movie for the first time. So, you know, the film ended up reaching audiences like all over Australia, New Zealand, and then more recently in the UK as well. And we've had a great deal of positive feedback come out of the tour. So it was really great to see. Then shortly after the premiere, we were contacted by Ananda Media, which is an international adventure film distributor. And we signed with them to sell our film all over the world. So we're like, this is great. Like people all over the world are seeing this film and getting our message. So now you can actually find it on Vimeo on demand. It's on Amazon. And it's going to be on released on streaming platforms like Edge Sports and Adventure Plus, which is amazing.
That is so cool. And you know what I love about this is that for such a long time, my perception of climbing is that it was something that like young men did. And then they like got married and stopped because craziness. And I guess like Wendy has a personal connection here because my perception of climbing was watching my brother, right? And my brother is like, he has always just been like this crazy adventurer. Like he literally was like climbing with a broken ankle and a croc on the other foot. Like that is the kind of dude he is. And I was like, only crazy people do this, right? And then he taught my sister. And that was like a number of years ago. My sister has then, we're going to have her on the podcast too, PS everybody. But she's also an adventurer at heart. And it got its hooks. It gets its hooks into people, it seems like. And it just becomes this absolutely just, not even just a physical thing, but it becomes almost like a spiritual, emotional, like passion that just takes people over. And, you know, after a busy day, doesn't matter what's happening, like there, I see the people at Kangaroo Point, like, you know, watching the sun go down on the cliffs. Am I right? Like it just.
I think you're totally right. And I mean, it's interesting because I think, yes, you had that perception of climbing from Dean. And I am aware of how much of an adventure climber Dean is. And that's amazing. And I think also people see videos like Free Solo with Alex and they just think climbing is this incredibly risky sport that you do, but
and not possible for like just the regular
100%.
Like I have to say, this is 100% my perception. Like,
oh, really?
You're changing my perception, and I'm very excited to watch the documentary. But when I first heard about like Mum's Gone Climbing, I was like, well, that sounds really scary. Right, really, really scary.
You know, I said this to someone the other day as well. What you need to understand with climbing is that we can mitigate risk incredibly well. If you're climbing pregnant on a top rope, you're constantly attached to, you are honestly safer than if you're walking down a bit of a rocky footpath. Like you are not going to hurt yourself. It is, you have to pay attention. There's not much room for error as far as making sure your gear is safe and your setup is safe. But beyond that, you can bring the risk down so much. So, and you don't have to climb things that are with tiny holds or that are super steep. You can climb stuff that you could probably climb without a rope. People who hike the Glasshouse Mountains terrify me. I wouldn't do it because I'd rather have a rope attached to me. I feel like that's safer. I'm a bit clumsy. I'd rather have the safety of a rope. So I think that is definitely something, it's an educational thing and it's a thing that you learn when you are a climber. And you're right, it does get into your soul. I think Wendy can probably talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, definitely. I started climbing about 21 years ago and haven't really looked back, and kind of started because I had this like debilitating fear of heights. And yeah, I kind of needed to get over that. So I started working at the climbing gym back home in Canada and just never looked back since. So
That's so cool. What a way to get over your fears.
yeah.
Amazing.
Head on.
Yeah, exactly. That's so good. Doing that documentary, what were your biggest takeaways?
Well, when Nell first talked to me about producing the doco, we thought about the time, like all the money and the effort it would take, not to mention like if we were even going to get funding for this project. So we were taking a massive chance on this like passion project essentially, because it was really important to us to get the message out. And so it seemed like this big, hairy, audacious goal and undertaking. So I'd say the very first takeaway we had is that you just have to take these chances in life, even though it can be really scary. Like when I was, on that first rock climbing wall, I had to tell myself, like, listen, I will not let fear dictate my life. And that's sort of been my motto for years now. So we were actually really vulnerable. We felt very vulnerable when we sent our deck to potential sponsors, and even more uncertain when, the pandemic stopped a lot of what we were trying to achieve. So it took us, like Nell said, 2 years to put this whole film together. And then once it was finally produced, then it was even more confronting to then submit it to different film tours, because then that fear of rejection comes in, and you wonder, like, is what we've done enough?
Yeah.
But in reality, if you let that fear dictate your life and what you're going to do, then you never start, and then you never know what the outcome is going to be. So we did originally want to inspire women to take these chances and continue pursuing their passions in outdoor adventure, because, we've both seen a lot of friends, and Nell personally even, stop doing what they love and how it affected their mental and physical health.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And obviously that's why I originally started Mum's Gone Climbing. And it was exactly why I wanted to, do this doco. It was the dream to be able to inspire other women. And Wendy's right. Like, it was scary. It was scary to put our work out there and to create a documentary when we'd never done that before. But the reason behind it was so motivating. And I think that's definitely the takeaway, right? That you've just got to lean into that fear, because that's when all the magic happens. I think the other huge takeaway for me personally, which it shouldn't have really come as a shock given everything that we've been doing, but while we were filming, what became clear was that all of the mothers had navigated mental health challenges, some more serious than others. But there was definitely that common thread of motherhood dealing out challenges that we had never anticipated. But this community had built such an incredible support system, one that had a foundation in a shared passion, which is important. And it meant that no matter what curveballs parenting threw at us, there would always be this group of women that were ready to lift each other up. And that was, truly the most powerful takeaway that we learned. And in the end, I believe that's what the film portrayed to our audience so well.
I love it. I feel like the film, I'm so excited to watch it now. I'm going to message my husband and be like, get the Amazon sorted. I don't know how to work it, but I'm super
We'll send
excited.
you a link. It'll be
Oh,
fine.
perfect. That's even easier for me. I just feel like, even though, so I'm not a climber, obviously I've made that obvious, but I feel like it's just so relatable. Like whether you climb or do anything. Oh, I'm so excited. So excited.
Yeah, it's definitely not a film just for climbers.
Yeah.
For women, for mothers, for families, pretty much anyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think something that I've noticed with both of you is that that separately from each other, even, you are so passionate about building community. You kind of met Wendy in a community that she had started, that she was going, and you've got your Mum's Gone Climbing community. And that sort of has then, brought the documentary into existence, I guess, with those women that you were with. And so obviously you guys have created these beautiful communities that you surround yourselves with. How do you feel that those communities have helped transform your lives?
Yeah. So for me personally, and I believe Wendy has had experiences similar, having a supportive community around me who share similar values and have a passion for adventure has helped me to become my most authentic self. I truly feel very grounded and incredibly grateful that I've been able to create this life that brings me, a lot of joy. It's like there are so many people that are part of our community who are a huge inspiration to me. And to constantly have that reminder of, yes, those are the ventures I want to have. That's the mentality I want to strive for. I want to be brave and resilient like her. It's just incredible to have that, to have other people who keep you focused on being the very best version of yourself. That's been amazing for me.
Yeah. And, we did have a tremendous amount of support from our communities leading up to the documentary release as well. Like the Brisbane and Gold Coast shows were completely sold out. And, most of the audience was actually made up of our friends and, the whole Southeast Queensland climbing community, even though it really wasn't a climbing film tour. So having that support, when we were leaning into this opportunity, that was really intimidating to start with. It really does give you that confidence and strength to go after even more and bigger opportunities out there. So, we've realized Mojo Stoke Productions is not just made up of, Madam Mojo and Sister Stoke. It's everyone who's had our backs and been our cheerleaders along the way, from our, original client, Kinesis Sunscreen, who we still do regular work for today, and Adventure Entertainment for taking a massive chance on us right from the beginning. Our friends at Urban Climb, who were major sponsors of the documentary, and like all our friends at ATA, Mums Gone Climbing, and the entire Queensland climbing community. Like everyone has been nothing but supportive through our entire journey. And without all the support that we've gotten, Mojo Stoke wouldn't be where we are today.
I was so impressed with that entire climbing community. I had no idea that it was so vast across Queensland. And that really came to light during the floods, really, where the climbing community really got kind of hands-on and started going into different sort of flood areas and helping people out with their own gear. And I could, because I was involved with that in, from a background perspective, I could see all of those conversations of them trying to, organize people to go up together. What have you got? What equipment have you got? What time do you have? And like really rallying together to go and help out people who were in the floods, a lot of them are just recreational climbers. That's not their job. But it was incredible to see them all just working together to help like their fellow Australians. Was really, really cool to see.
Oh, definitely. I think there's a sense of camaraderie when it comes to the climbing community because, the people that you're climbing with, you're essentially, leaving your life in their hands. So you find that the people that you climb with and the whole community in general, like even if you see random people out at the crag somewhere, you instantly have this bond, like you're in this space together in nature, far away from any ambulances and hospitals. So if anything did go wrong with anybody, everyone sort of rushes in to help. And I think it's a beautiful thing to have that.
Mm. That total support. It's definitely something that the climbing community breeds. The resilience and the bravery and the support. I think they're all things that really are essential to being part of our weird little crew of people that love each other all so much.
What a perfect community. So good. So what do you ladies have coming up next?
So coming up next, I'm putting a lot of time into Mums Gone Climbing at the moment. We launched a podcast just last week, actually, which is awesome. I've had that as a dream for quite some time, but, life gets in the way. So you can take a listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It's very originally called the Mums Gone Climbing podcast. And yeah, we're expanding our local communities with MGC as well. So we have events going on in Sydney and in Vancouver, Canada as well, which is pretty cool, going global. And the documentary screening, as Wendy said, so you can get it on Vimeo on demand, on Amazon, on Adventure Plus, and it's going to be on Edge Sports TV pretty soon. So that's pretty cool. Still reaching lots of people, which is fun.
Yeah, and we've been asked to come back as well to host the Women's Adventure Film Tour again. So we're very excited about that. So we're going to be seeing all of our friends at the Brisbane and Gold Coast shows again. And we're going to be popping up to host other film tours as well with Adventure Entertainment.
When is the Brisbane and Gold Coast one?
September, isn't it? What dates? Brisbane?
6th and 8th. So the 6th is the Gold Coast, I believe, and the 8th is Brisbane.
Cool.
Yeah, definitely. If you have some time, the Women's Adventure Film Tours, it's so fun. We have such a great night. And, you know, the theatres are packed with women of all ages, and the films, you know, usually cover lots of different things, like whether that's skiing or surfing or climbing. So it's always a great night. I would highly recommend coming along if you can.
Cool. I'll
Night
be
out,
there.
Jess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you see us, come say hi, because we
I
love
will.
giving out high fives and hugs. It's like what we're about, pretty much.
We're pretty good
Love it.
huggers. Now, how do people get hold of you, whether it's to find out more about your documentary, when it's to find out more about your various communities that you guys are involved in? Where can they reach you?
The best way to get in touch is through our socials. So we're at Mojo Stoke, MOJOSTOKE on Instagram and Facebook, or they can even email us at mojostoke@gmail.com. And we would love to hear from everyone just to see, you know, what they got out of this podcast as well, and, you know, what they want to get out of us in the future.
Some new clients is what they would like, people out there, is that's what we're after. So you would not be going wrong with your dollars. I can tell you that much, speaking to these ladies. It's been an absolute privilege to have you on. I have
Thank you
watched
so
the trailer
much.
of the documentary. I cannot wait to watch the whole
Same.
thing.
Yeah.
I'm so
thank
excited
you.
to see it. And congratulations on everything, ladies. I can't wait to see where it's all going to go. It sounds like it's been this slow burn that's just ready to explode. So we can't wait to see everything that is going to be eventuating for the two of you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much
thank
for having
you.
us.
It's been a lot of fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening in to this episode of The Transformation Project. The Transformation Project is not just a podcast, we're also a community. We're a collective of like-minded people all around the world seeking to live their best life and raise each other up. We're looking to support you, set goals, get healthier, connect with yourself and others at a deeper level, and better understand yourself and the world around you. We're always looking to link arms with like-minded people wanting to create more out of life. You can connect with us via our website, which is www.thetransformationproject.net.au. Email us at support@thetransformationproject.net.au, or simply listen in to one of our podcast episodes, which can be found on all podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You can even watch some of our episodes on our YouTube channel, simply called The Transformation Project. Please like and subscribe to make sure you hear all the incredible shows and guests we have lined up. If you have any feedback or any comment, we would love to hear those, as well as any ideas or guests that you think we should be interviewing in future. Thank you for joining us on this episode of The Transformation Project.